Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm excited to introduce our topic, Class XII History. Today, we'll explore fascinating historical events and themes that shaped our world. We'll cover key periods, important personalities, and significant developments. So, let's get started and dive into the world of history together. Let's start by exploring some of the non-Kshatriya kings, such as the Shungas and Kanvas. These rulers were significant because they challenged the traditional Kshatriya dominance and played crucial roles in shaping early Indian history. We also see other non-Kshatriya rulers, like the Satavahanas, who were influential in the Deccan region. Moving further back, the Mauryan kings are often considered part of this broader spectrum of rulers outside the Kshatriya class. Next, we come to the idea of a divine order, which is often linked to Source 6. This concept reflects how ancient societies perceived social hierarchy as divinely ordained, providing legitimacy to the Varna system. Now, let's consider some questions that arise around these topics. For example, what are the proper social roles? How did societies enforce the Varna system? These questions help us understand how social order was maintained and justified. Turning to caste, an important aspect of social structure, we see that it became a defining feature of Indian society over time. We also wonder about the role of mothers. Were they considered important in shaping social values? Moving to cultural representations, there's a fascinating scene of battle, which highlights the importance of warfare, honor, and heroism. Alongside that, we have stories like A Mother's Advice, emphasizing maternal influence and moral guidance. We also learn about women married to Satavahana rulers, shedding light on royal family dynamics. For instance, the relationship between a Satavahana ruler and his wife, which can reveal insights into royal customs and gender roles. Inscriptions, such as Source 4, provide names of Satavahana kings, giving us tangible links to history. These inscriptions also inform us about rules of marriage and the Gotra, clan or lineage, of women, which were crucial for maintaining social order. There are 8 forms of marriage outlined in Source 3, which tell us about the diversity and complexity of marriage practices. Recognizing different types of marriages, along with their rules, helps us understand societal norms. The Dharma Sutras and Dharma Shastras offer guidelines on family structures and responsibilities, reinforcing the importance of dharma, righteous duty, in personal and social life. We then see the emphasis on producing fine sons, as highlighted in Source 1, which underscores the importance of progeny for family continuity. Conversely, Source 2 discusses reasons why kinfolk might quarrel, revealing the tensions that could arise within family and kinship networks. V.S. Sakthankar's work on the critical edition of the Mahabharata continues to shed light on how these stories reflect societal norms and values. We also note the exceptions, certain stories or practices that deviate from the norm. The Mahabharata itself is a colossal epic, packed with lessons on family, duty, and dharma. Norms of family and kinship are deeply embedded within its narratives, emphasizing patrilineage, the importance of lineage through the male line. Throughout these discussions, inscriptions and textual traditions give us multiple perspectives on these social norms. The central story of the Mahabharata encapsulates many of these ideas, illustrating the complexities of kinship, caste, and class in early societies. Finally, we see visual representations, such as terracotta sculptures depicting scenes from the Mahabharata, which help us understand how these stories and social values were conveyed through art. All these elements together give us a richer picture of kinship, caste, and class in early Indian societies. Today, we're going to explore some of the key issues in social history, specifically focusing on how different societies organized themselves around class, caste, kinship, and gender. In this chapter, we'll see how these social structures shaped early societies and influenced people's lives. We'll start by looking at kinship, which is essentially the way families and clans were formed and interconnected. Kinship systems help define social roles and responsibilities, creating a sense of identity and belonging within communities. Next, we'll examine caste and class, which are ways societies categorize people based on their social status. Caste systems, especially prominent in South Asia, are rigid and hereditary, affecting every aspect of life from occupation to social interactions. Class, on the other hand, often involves more fluid distinctions but still plays a crucial role in social hierarchy. Finally, we'll consider gender roles and how they influenced societal organization. Gender often determined one's responsibilities, rights, and social position, shaping the dynamics within early communities. Throughout this chapter, we'll see how these elements, kinship, caste, class, and gender, are interconnected and central to understanding the social fabric of early societies. This helps us grasp the broader theme of how human communities organized themselves and maintained social order over time. Others describe and sometimes comment on a wide range of social situations and practices. This helps us get a sense of how people behaved and interacted in different times and places. Historians, in particular, have relied on textual traditions to understand these social changes. By examining written records, stories, and other texts, they can piece together how social behavior evolved over time. This approach allows us to see beyond just the events and focus on the underlying social norms and practices. So, in this part of the presentation, we're focusing on how textual traditions serve as a valuable tool for historians to interpret social history and understand human interactions across different eras. Now, let's explore inscriptions y sus perspectivas. This section is really about understanding how inscriptions, or written records from the past, provide us with valuable insights. We'll look at the different ways these inscriptions are interpreted and what they reveal about the cultures that created them. It's important to recognize that inscriptions aren't just static texts. They reflect the perspectives, priorities, and beliefs of their creators. By analyzing these perspectives, we can better understand the historical context and the worldview of those ancient societies. This ties into our overall theme of examining different ways history is recorded and interpreted, helping us appreciate the richness and complexity of past civilizations. Mahabharata is truly a colossal epic, comprising around 100,000 verses. It covers a wide range of social categories and situations, reflecting the diversity and complexity of ancient Indian society. This immense body of work isn't just a story. It's a comprehensive tapestry that explores human nature, morality, duty, and the eternal struggle between right and wrong. When we look at the Mahabharata, we see how it encompasses various facets of life, from the personal to the political. It's a reflection of the cultural richness of the time, and it continues to resonate because of its profound insights into human values. Connecting this to our overall theme, the Mahabharata exemplifies how epic literature can serve as a mirror to society, offering lessons that are still relevant today. The conflict ended in a battle where the Pandavas emerged victorious. These two groups, the Kauravas and Pandavas, actually belonged to the same ruling family, the Kurush. This wasn't just any family feud. It was a fierce struggle over land and power. Essentially, it's about two sets of cousins who were fighting fiercely against each other. This central story of the Mahabharata highlights how deep-rooted conflicts can escalate into war, but also how they shape the destiny of entire kingdoms. It's a powerful reminder of the complex nature of family loyalty, ambition, and the consequences of rivalry. On this slide, I want to highlight how our team took a comprehensive approach to studying the Mahabharata. We collected Sanskrit manuscripts of the text from various parts of the country, and these manuscripts were written in different scripts, reflecting the rich regional diversity of this epic. This collection was crucial because it allowed us to see the variations and nuances in how the Mahabharata was transmitted over time. Building on this foundation, we undertook an ambitious project to prepare a critical edition of the Mahabharata. This involved assembling a team of skilled Sanskrit scholars, each bringing their expertise to carefully compare and analyze the different manuscripts. The goal was to create a version of the text that is as accurate and authentic as possible, respecting the manuscript variations. A key figure in this effort was V.S. Sukthankar, a renowned Sanskrit scholar from India. His deep knowledge and scholarly rigor were instrumental in guiding this project. Overall, this slide underscores the importance of meticulous scholarship and collaboration in preserving and understanding one of India's most significant literary and cultural treasures. Enormous regional variations were also found, which highlights just how diverse the manuscript tradition of the Mahabharata really is. It shows how different regions and communities adapted and transmitted the text in unique ways over time. Finally, they selected the verses that appeared common to most versions, focusing on those that had the broadest acceptance across different manuscripts. This was crucial for establishing a more reliable and standardized text. They then compared the verses from each manuscript, analyzing the differences and similarities to understand the evolution of the text. All of this work was part of V.S. Sakthankar's effort in creating the critical edition of the Mahabharata, which aimed to bring together the most authentic version of this epic. This process not only helps us see how the text developed, but also underscores the importance of rigorous scholarly comparison in preserving such a monumental work. It ties into the overall theme of understanding the Mahabharata's rich manuscript history and the ongoing efforts to preserve its integrity. Let's take a closer look at V.S. Sakthankar. Who was he, and what was his role in social reconstruction in India? Sakthankar was a prominent historian and scholar who led efforts to understand and interpret India's rich cultural and historical heritage. His team's work played a crucial part in shaping modern Indian identity, fostering a sense of unity and pride. Their contributions helped reframe India's social fabric by emphasizing shared history and cultural values, which was vital during the period of social reconstruction. Moving on to question 6, why do historians emphasize kinship, family, and marriage? Well, these aspects are fundamental to understanding social organization and relationships within Indian society. They reveal how communities are structured, how social roles are assigned, and how cultural norms are maintained over generations. By studying kinship and family ties, historians gain insight into social stability, hierarchy, and even issues of inheritance and power. Now, let's discuss the central story of the Mahabharata. At its core, the epic narrates the great Kurukshetra war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. But beyond the battlefield, it explores themes of duty, righteousness, and dharma. The story also delves into complex relationships, moral dilemmas, and the importance of righteousness in life. It's a profound reflection of human values, ethics, and the struggles to uphold righteousness in a chaotic world. Turning to the critical edition of the Mahabharata, what does it entail? The critical edition is a scholarly effort to compile and analyze all available versions of the epic. It aims to establish a version that is as close to the original as possible, acknowledging the numerous variations that exist across regions and time periods. This edition helps scholars understand the evolution of the text and its cultural significance, providing a more authentic and comprehensive view of this colossal epic. Next, why do the variations of the Mahabharata in different languages matter? These variations highlight how the epic has been adapted and interpreted across diverse cultures and regions. They reflect local customs, beliefs, and storytelling traditions, enriching our understanding of how the epic resonated with different communities. Essentially, these variations show the Mahabharata's universal appeal and its ability to transcend linguistic and cultural boundaries. Finally, why is the Mahabharata considered a colossal epic? It's because of its immense length, complexity, and depth. It encompasses a vast array of stories, characters, philosophical discourses, and moral lessons. Its scope covers everything from divine interventions to human struggles, making it one of the most comprehensive and influential literary works in human history. Its grandeur lies in its ability to address the fundamental questions of life, duty, and righteousness, making it truly monumental. Let's explore how family and kinship are understood across different societies. For example, in some cultures, cousins are considered full relatives and play an important role in social relationships. In others, they might not be regarded as immediate family. This shows us that familial ties are often based on blood, which many see as a natural connection that binds us. Families are part of a larger network known as relatives or kinfolk, which helps organize social life. People within the same family often share resources like food, work together, live in close proximity, and participate in rituals and ceremonies. However, it's important to remember that not all families are the same. They can differ greatly in size, the nature of their relationships, and the activities they share. These differences highlight how flexible and culturally specific notions of family and kinship can be. Understanding these norms helps us see the diversity in how societies organize social bonds and support networks, which is central to the overall theme of our presentation. These factors really give us valuable insight into how people thought and viewed their world. When we look into attitudes towards family and kinship, historians put a lot of effort into investigating and analyzing these relationships. However, it's important to remember that reconstructing the familial ties of ordinary people can be quite challenging. Unlike the elite class, whose lives were often documented in records and inscriptions, the everyday person's family relationships are much harder to trace. In early societies, though, it's somewhat easier for us as historians to gather information about the families of the ruling or noble classes because they left behind more substantial evidence. So, while we can get a clearer picture of elite family structures, understanding the familial bonds of common folk remains a complex puzzle. This all ties back to our overarching theme of understanding social structures and values through historical sources. Now, let's take a closer look at family structures, starting with the concept of clans or lineage groups. These are essentially extended family networks that trace their roots back through ancestral lines, often called vansha or lineage. These groups help maintain a sense of identity and continuity over generations. Within these clans, we see the importance of extended relations, or Jainati, which connect members through family ties. These ties create a web of kinfolk, or individuals related by blood, and emphasize how interconnected everyone is within the larger family network. At a more immediate level, we have family units, known as kula, which are the core social groups where daily life and responsibilities are centered. Overall, these structures, clan, lineage, kinfolk, and family units, highlight how closely knit social organization is built around shared ancestry and familial bonds. They are fundamental to understanding how communities maintain cohesion and pass down traditions across generations. The Mahabharata really reinforced the idea that patrilineage was valuable in that society. After the Pandavas emerged victorious, patrilineal succession was officially proclaimed, emphasizing the importance of inheritance through the male line. Now, when we talk about matrilineage, we mean a system where descent is traced through the mother, which is quite different from patrilineage. In contrast, patrilineage is based on the idea that sons have claims to their father's wealth when he passes away. This system reinforced the importance of male heirs and the continuation of family wealth and status through the male line. This ideal of patrilineage played a crucial role in shaping social structures and inheritance practices, linking back to the overall theme of how ancient societies organized family and social authority. It's a key concept that helps us understand the values and norms that influence these cultures. In some exceptional cases, women did manage to ascend the throne, such as Prabhavati Gupta. This was quite rare, but it shows that under special circumstances, gender didn't always determine who would rule. Sometimes, when the king's sons were not available or suitable, brothers would succeed the throne. This was another common way the succession played out, emphasizing the importance of kinship ties in maintaining stability. In other situations, kinsmen, more distant relatives, claimed the throne, especially during times of political turmoil or when the direct heirs were absent or unable to rule. And of course, a key point to remember is that when there were no sons to inherit the throne, the succession rules often adapted, leading to these various exceptions. All of these scenarios highlight how, despite some general rules, the actual process of succession could be quite flexible, especially in extraordinary circumstances. This connects to our broader theme of how dynastic stability and leadership continuity were maintained through a variety of means, even in unusual situations. Indra was one of the principal deities in ancient Hindu tradition, known as the god of valor, warfare, and rain. His importance is reflected in many rituals and beliefs. When we see the words here and there, they refer to the father's house and the husband's house, respectively. This distinction is significant in the context of marriage rituals. Even today, this concept is still used in many Hindu weddings. The phrase, "I free her from here, but not from there," highlights the symbolic transition a bride makes from her family home to her new life with her husband. At the same time, it emphasizes that she is firmly bound in her new household, with the blessing that, through Indra's grace, she will bear fine sons and find happiness and love in her marriage. This excerpt is from a mantra in the Rigveda, which was probably added around 1000 BCE. The priest would chant this during the marriage ceremony, invoking divine blessings for the bride's new life. The idea of producing fine sons is central here, representing the hope for a prosperous and blessed future through divine favor. Overall, this slide connects the divine, cultural, and ritual aspects of marriage in ancient Hindu society, showing how gods like Indra play a vital role in these important life moments. Let's consider the implications of this passage on the bride and groom. What message does it convey about their future and their responsibilities? We see that it emphasizes the importance of having fine sons, which reflects societal values and the desire for a prosperous lineage. The author stresses this point to highlight how crucial it is for the couple to focus on producing worthy offspring. Now, regarding the source of this passage, can anyone recall the text from which it has been taken? Understanding its origin helps us grasp the cultural context better. Overall, these questions guide us to think about the deeper messages in the text and how they relate to the themes of family, responsibility, and societal expectations. Let's look at how these passages help us understand the underlying tensions. They might not be literally true, but they offer insight into what the writers believed and thought about. Sometimes, as we see here, these texts contain conflicting ideas, which reflect the complex emotions and politics at play. For example, Duryodhana, the eldest Kaurava, felt deep jealousy. He approached his father and expressed his concerns, saying that the throne was not truly his because of a flaw in his father. He worried that if the Pandavas inherited the throne from Pandu, then their descendants would continue to claim it, excluding the Kauravas and their sons. He feared that this would lead to the Kauravas being marginalized and seen as less significant in the eyes of the world, essentially claiming they would be lords of the earth without rightful recognition. As the princes grew up, the citizens of Hastinapura began to favor the Pandavas. They saw the Pandavas as more capable and virtuous, which added to Duryodhana's jealousy and resentment. In terms of the background, it's important to remember that Dhritarashtra, who was blind, was king initially because Pandu, the younger brother, was the ruler before him. When Pandu died prematurely, Dhritarashtra took over, but the royal children, both Pandavas and Kauravas, were still very young at the time. This excerpt from the Mahabharata's first section, the Adi Parvan, explains why conflicts arose. It highlights the deep roots of rivalry between the Kauravas, who were Dhritarashtra's sons, and the Pandavas, their cousins. These early stories set the stage for the larger struggles and moral questions that define the epic. Let's explore the reasons behind Duryodhana's anxiety. His concern primarily stemmed from the growing influence and strengths of the Pandavas, which threatened his claim to the throne. This fear was compounded by the ongoing rivalry and the potential for the Pandavas to challenge his authority. Next, we look at Duryodhana's reaction to the Pandavas. He responded with hostility and opposition, often resorting to cunning and force to weaken them. His actions included plotting against the Pandavas and trying to diminish their power, all driven by his desire to maintain his dominance. Moving on, we'll discuss what requisites are necessary to become an emperor. Typically, these include qualities like leadership, wisdom, strategic thinking, and the ability to govern justly. A ruler should also possess strength and the support of his people to establish and maintain authority. Now, regarding the passage we're examining, it is taken from a specific ancient text. Recognizing the source helps us understand the context and the cultural background of these narratives. Finally, let's consider why the citizens of Hastinapura preferred the Pandavas over the Kauravas. The citizens saw the Pandavas as righteous, fair, and just rulers. They believed the Pandavas' virtues, and just conduct made them more suitable and trustworthy to lead the kingdom. All these points tie into the larger theme of leadership, rivalry, and the moral questions surrounding power and governance in our discussion. Now, let's look at some of the different types of marriages. First, we have polyandry, which is a practice where a woman could have more than one husband. It's quite rare but exists in certain cultures around the world. Moving on, exogamy refers to marriage outside of one's own group or kin. This is important because it helps build alliances and diversify social connections. Then, we have polygyny, where a man has several wives. This is more common historically and in many societies today. Lastly, endogamy is marriage within one's own group, whether by kinship, religion, or social class. Understanding these different marriage practices helps us see how cultural and social norms shape family structures across the world. All of these variations highlight the diversity of human social organization and how marriage functions in different contexts. Kanyadana, or the gift of a daughter in marriage, was considered a very important religious duty for the father. It was not just a family matter, but a significant ritual that held religious and cultural importance. Exogamy, or marrying outside one's own family or community, was seen as desirable. It helped build broader social connections and avoid close kin marriages. Women, however, did not have any legal share in their parental property. This highlights the gender roles and property rights prevalent during that time. These rules of marriage reflect the social structure and values, emphasizing duty, social connections, and the importance of maintaining clear property boundaries. Understanding these rules helps us see how marriage was intertwined with religion, social status, and family responsibilities in that society. Out of these, the first 4 forms of marriage were considered as good. Dharma Sutras recognized 8 forms of marriage. The most important such work is Manusmriti, which was compiled between 200 BCE and 200 CE. These texts are written in Sanskrit. They serve as codes of social behavior, meant to be followed primarily by brahmanas, but also by society in general. This highlights how these ancient texts played a crucial role in shaping social norms and maintaining order within the community. Let's take a closer look at the first, fourth, fifth, and sixth forms of marriage as outlined in the Manusmriti. Starting with the first form, it involves a voluntary union between a maiden and her lover, which naturally springs from desire. This highlights the importance of mutual attraction and consent in choosing a partner. Moving on to the fourth form, this occurs when a bridegroom receives a maiden after giving as much wealth as he can afford to his kinsmen and to the bride herself, all according to his own will. It emphasizes the role of generosity and the groom's capacity to give as part of the marriage process. The fifth form involves the gift of a daughter by her father, who dresses her in costly clothes, offers her with presents of jewels, and then invites a learned man in the Veda to marry her. This underscores the significance of social status, wealth, and religious rights in marriage arrangements. Finally, the sixth form is a spiritual or sacred union, where the couple is united through desire, emphasizing the personal and emotional connection. Overall, these forms reflect the diverse cultural and social dimensions of marriage in ancient times, ranging from personal affection to social duty and religious obligation. Let's talk about the rules surrounding Gotra, especially when it comes to women. First, members of the same Gotra could not marry each other, as they were considered to be descendants of the same Vedic seer. This was a key social rule to prevent close kin marriages. Additionally, when a woman got married, she was expected to adopt her husband's Gotra and give up her father's Gotra. This practice reinforced the importance of the husband's lineage in the family structure. It's interesting to note that Gotra held particular significance for women. shaping their social identity and marital customs. Essentially, Gotra was a way of tracing descent back to a specific Vedic seer, and those within the same Gotra were regarded as related. This system was an important part of maintaining social order and continuity within the community, linking individual identity to broader ancestral traditions. This slide highlights an interesting aspect of the marriage customs involving women married to Satavahana rulers. It actually ran counter to the ideal of exogamy that was highly recommended in Brahmanical texts. You see, according to those texts, women were supposed to adopt the Gotra of their husbands, which would promote social cohesion and purity. However, in this case, some of the women married to the Satavahana rulers belonged to the same Gotra as their husbands. What's particularly noteworthy is that they retained their original names, instead of adopting new names derived from their husband's Gotra, as the Brahmanical rules would suggest. Instead, these women kept names that came from their own father's Gotras, such as Gautama and Vasistha. This deviation from the prescribed norms gives us insight into the social and cultural practices of the time, indicating that actual customs often varied from idealized rules. It also underscores the unique social fabric of the Satavahana period, where tradition and practice sometimes diverged. Understanding these nuances helps us grasp the complexity of societal norms and how they interacted with regional and familial identities during this era. Let's look at these names of several generations of Satavahana rulers, which have been recovered from inscriptions. You'll notice that they all carry the common title, Raja, meaning king, which helps us identify their regal status. Now, an interesting feature here is the recurring use of the word Puta, which is a Prakrit term meaning son. For example, in Gautamiputra, it indicates son of Gautami. This naming pattern emphasizes lineage and ancestry, which was significant for royal identity and inheritance. You'll also see names like Gautami and Vasithi, which are feminine forms of Gautama and Vasistha. These are names of Vedic seers. Gautama and Vasistha are notable for their Gotras, or genealogical clans, and using their names in royal titles highlights the connection to Vedic traditions and spiritual authority. So these inscriptions give us valuable insights into the lineage, cultural identity, and the importance attributed to heritage among the Satavahana rulers. They reflect a blend of royal pride, spiritual lineage, and the significance of family continuity in their times. Now, moving on to slide 27, we see an incredible example of ancient art, a wall painting from a cave that was donated to Buddhist monks. This artwork offers us a glimpse into the cultural and religious practices of that time. Next, we have a depiction of a Satavahana ruler and his wife. The Satavahana dynasty was significant in Indian history, especially in promoting trade, culture, and Buddhism. This image is not just a portrait. It reflects the status and power of the ruler, as well as the importance of the royal family in society. You can also observe the intricate details in their attire and jewelry, which tell us a lot about the craftsmanship of that era and the social hierarchy. Overall, this artwork illustrates how rulers used art to communicate their authority and devotion, and it ties into our broader theme of the cultural and religious developments during ancient India. Does this passage give you an idea about the way in which mothers were viewed in early Indian societies? Here, we see Gandhari, a mother who offers her son Duryodhana heartfelt advice, emphasizing the importance of making peace rather than pursuing war. She urges him to honor his father and herself by choosing wisdom over greed and anger, which are described as enemies that can lead a ruler astray. The advice highlights that a wise person controls their senses, and by doing so, can protect their kingdom. She also points out that true victory isn't always in war, and that peace can bring happiness, profit, and lawfulness, dharma, into one's life. This reflects a view of mothers as moral guides and advisors, especially in matters of ethics and decision-making. Despite her warnings, Duryodhana ignores this counsel and fights the war, which ultimately leads to his defeat. So, this passage not only shows us the values and ideals of early Indian society, but also underscores the influential role mothers played in shaping their children's morals and choices. Even in the case of the Satavahanas, we see that succession to the throne was generally patrilineal, which means that sons typically inherited the throne after their father's death. This pattern of inheritance was quite common in many ancient kingdoms, emphasizing the importance of the male line. However, what's really interesting is that despite this patrilineal system, Satavahana rulers are often identified through matronymics. That means their names are derived from their mothers' names. This suggests that women, or at least their familial connections, played a significant role in their identities and possibly in the political or social fabric of the time. So, even though sons usually succeeded their fathers, the prominence of maternal names indicates that mothers held an important place in the lineage and perhaps in the cultural consciousness of the society. This duality of inheritance and identity really highlights the complexity of social and political structures in this period. This slide shows a fascinating scene from the Mahabharata, captured on the walls of a temple in Ahitchhatra, Uttar Pradesh. You can see the intricate artwork depicting a battle scene, which is a central part of this epic. The Mahabharata isn't just a story about warriors and conflicts. It's a profound narrative that explores dharma, duty, and the complexities of human nature. This particular scene highlights the intense moment of confrontation, reminding us how crucial these battles were in shaping the moral and spiritual lessons conveyed through the epic. It's a vivid illustration of the rich cultural and artistic heritage that preserves these stories for generations. As we continue, keep in mind how these visual representations deepen our understanding of the epic's themes and their enduring relevance. Caste refers to a set of hierarchically ordered social categories, and these are laid down in ancient texts known as the Dharma Sutras and Dharmashastras. These texts essentially provide the framework for understanding social structure and roles within society. The key point here is that caste isn't just a social label. It's a system that delineates different groups with specific duties and expectations. This hierarchical arrangement influences many aspects of life, including occupation, social interactions, and even purity concepts. Connecting this to the overall theme of social organization, the caste system played a significant role in shaping societal dynamics and cultural practices over centuries. It's important to see how these ancient classifications continue to influence social structures even today. Now, moving on to the third strategy, Brahmanas tried to persuade people that their social status was determined by birth. They emphasized that your varna, or social class, was something you were born into and should accept as a divine order. This was a powerful way to reinforce the system and maintain social stability. Next, the Brahmanas advised kings to ensure that the Varna system was strictly followed within their kingdoms. They believed it was essential for the rulers to uphold this hierarchy, as it was rooted in divine authority. By doing so, they aimed to reinforce the social order and prevent any challenges to the established system. And finally, the Brahmanas asserted that the Varna order was of divine origin. They claimed it was given by the gods and therefore sacred and unchangeable. This divine justification made it easier for society to accept the hierarchy without question. All these strategies show how the Brahmanas played a crucial role in shaping and preserving the social structure, connecting to the broader theme of how religion and authority worked together to maintain social stability in ancient India. On this slide, we're exploring how Brahmanas justified their social and religious claims by referencing a sacred hymn from the Rigveda called the Purusha Sukta. This hymn describes the sacrifice of Purusha, who is considered the primeval man or cosmic being. The key idea here is that all elements of the universe, including the 4 social categories, or varnas, are believed to have emanated from his body. For example, his mouth became the Brahmana, which signifies the priestly and scholarly class. His arms turned into the Kshatriya, the warrior and ruler class. His thighs became the Vaisya, the merchant and farmer class. And from his feet, the Sudra or laborer class was born. This mythological story was used to explain and justify the hierarchical structure of society, emphasizing that these social roles were part of a divine and cosmic order. It connects to the broader theme of this presentation, which is about understanding how ancient Indian society was organized around spiritual and cosmological principles, giving divine legitimacy to social roles and duties. Let's look at a fascinating story from the Mahabharata that highlights the complexities of social roles and dharma. Drona, the renowned teacher of archery, once told his favorite student Arjuna that he would be unrivaled among his pupils. Arjuna, confident and proud, later reminded Drona of this promise. Drona then approached Ekalavya, a young boy from the forest-dwelling Nishada community, who immediately recognized Drona as his teacher and showed him great respect. However, Drona demanded his right thumb as his fee, which Ekalavya unhesitatingly cut off and offered. This act, though painful, meant that his archery skills were now diminished, and he could no longer shoot as fast or as accurately as before. Yet, Drona kept his word. No one was better than Arjuna. Later, the story continues with the Kuru princes, who went hunting in the woods. Their dog, smelling a nishada wrapped in deer skin, barked loudly. Ekalavya, seeing the dog, shot 7 arrows into its mouth to protect himself. The Pandavas, observing this impressive display of skill, were amazed. When they tracked Ekalavya and learned he was Drona's pupil, it raised questions about social roles and the expectations placed on different communities. This story exemplifies how societal norms, dharma, and individual talent intersect, often creating complex moral dilemmas. It invites us to reflect on the different social roles and the expectations associated with them, highlighting that dharma can sometimes be challenging to define clearly. Let's examine the story of Ekalavya and understand his character. Ekalavya was a dedicated and determined young boy who deeply admired Drona, the great teacher of archery. Despite not being officially accepted as a student, Ekalavya created a clay image of Drona and practiced in secret, showcasing his unwavering dedication and passion. His character highlights qualities like loyalty, perseverance, and self-motivation. Now, moving on to how Drona kept his word given to Arjun. Drona had promised Arjun that he would make him the greatest archer. To fulfill this, Drona trained Arjun with great dedication, focusing on his skills and ensuring he received the best instruction. Drona's commitment to his promise was evident in the rigorous training and attention he gave Arjun, emphasizing the importance of keeping one's word and fulfilling commitments. Next, let's consider whether Drona's behavior with Ekalavya was justified. Drona's refusal to accept Ekalavya as a pupil was based on his promise to his teacher, Drupada, that he would not teach the son of a king's enemy. While Drona's decision might seem unfair or harsh, it was influenced by loyalty to his promise and the complex dynamics of loyalty and duty. This raises questions about fairness and the responsibilities we have to our commitments. Finally, why did Drona refuse to have Ekalavya as his pupil? Drona believed that accepting Ekalavya would violate his promise to Drupada, who had requested that Drona not teach Ekalavya. Drona's decision was driven by a sense of duty and loyalty, but it also highlights the difficult choices teachers and leaders often have to make. Ekalavya's story reminds us of the importance of dedication and the complexities of loyalty and ethical decisions. Brahmanical texts describe them as rulers of low origin, which suggests that early on, their social status was viewed with some suspicion or stigma. However, later Buddhist texts seem to tell a different story, indicating that they were actually Kshatriyas, the warrior and ruling class. This shift in descriptions is quite significant because it reflects how perceptions and narratives about these rulers evolved over time. It highlights the complexity of their social identities and the ways in which different traditions viewed their legitimacy and status. Connecting this to the broader theme, it shows how historical accounts can vary depending on the source and perspective, reminding us to consider multiple viewpoints when studying ancient history. Shungas and Kanvas, the immediate successors of the Mauryan Empire, were actually Brahmanas. This is quite significant because, unlike the Mauryan rulers who were Kshatriyas, these dynasties were led by Brahmanas, which shows a shift in the power dynamics of that period. It highlights how religious and social groups played a crucial role in leadership, especially after the decline of the Mauryan Empire. This transition also reflects the changing political landscape in ancient India. These non-Kshatriya kings, the Shungas and Kanvas, demonstrate that authority wasn't solely based on Kshatriya lineage, but could also be held by Brahmanas, emphasizing the complex interplay of religion and governance during that time. This is an important point to remember as we look at the broader context of Indian history, where social and religious identities significantly influenced political authority. They were metronymical. This means that their family names were derived from the mother's side, which was quite common in certain traditions. The Satavahanas, however, practiced endogamy, meaning they married within their own community or kin group. This was in contrast to exogamy, which the Brahmanas prescribed, where marriage was to be outside one's own kin or gotra to promote social cohesion and alliances. Interestingly, the Satavahanas entered into marriage alliances with the kin of Rudradaman, indicating strategic political and social connections through marriage. Now, Gautamiputra Satakarni, one of the notable Satavahana kings, even claimed to be a Brahmana himself. This was quite significant because it was a way to assert a higher spiritual or social status, especially in a time when Kshatriyas, the warrior class, held a dominant position. By claiming to be a Brahmana and calling himself the destroyer of Kshatriya pride, he challenged the traditional social hierarchy and demonstrated the fluidity of social identities during that period. So overall, these points highlight how the Satavahanas navigated social and political strategies through marriage alliances and claims of Brahmanical identity to strengthen their rule and influence.